Good morning, everybody, and happy Thursday to you. This week on 2-Minute Tips, I'd like to revisit the idea of strategic lanes and add just a couple of points before we move on. And to do that, I'd like to use the results from one of the guys that I've been working with over the last few months. So the first thing that we did was to log the time, as I mentioned last week, and we ended up summarizing that time, or putting a summary of the time, to give us a result of what I'm calling T0 equals 25%. And that means that he currently is only spending 25% of his time on his strategic lanes. So we've identified 5 or 6 things that we can do, specific steps we can take over the next 3 months to bring that time percentage up to 40%. And ultimately, what I like to see in cases like this, over the next 12 to 18 months as we work together, we're shooting for a target percentage of about 90%. All of us have things that we default to when we get stuck, and a lot of times those things may not be in our top 3 to 5 lanes. So the idea here is to make sure that the things we have ahead of us for work are actually in one of these areas. Now, the other idea I'd like to share with you today is just an idea of what I call lane changes. So inevitably, you're going to run into a speed bump on one of these areas. When you do that, I always like to encourage people to have their work planned so that you can instantly switch lanes. So rather than defaulting to what you may be comfortable with, you can actually default to something that is within your highest and best use. Okay, just a couple final thoughts on this idea of strategic lanes. First is that the strategic lanes exercise is not the same as a daily goal planner or tracker or a way to keep track of your daily objectives. There are a lot of amazing tools on the market for that. This is not one of them. This rather is designed to be a very high altitude look, sort of like looking over a chessboard. And in chess, you have 2 objectives. The first is to protect your king, which in this context is the equivalent of the time log. You're building a hedge around your time so that most of your time can be spent trying to take your opponent's king, which represents the strategic lanes or the highest impact uses of your time in the current role that you occupy. So have a great week, and I will see you next Thursday.